Can you hear me?
We can hear you,
Welcome.
sir. Thank you.
Welcome to the regular meeting of the Council of the Corporation of Municipalities, so the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of Central Elgin. Today is Monday, July the 29th. We welcome those here who are in the council chamber as well as those who are attending virtually. If I could ask for you to join me in singing the national anthem. Thank you. Municipality of Central Elgin acknowledges it is located on the land of the McKee Treaty that was signed by the Wyandot and Anishinaabe nations, including ancestors of Chippewas of the Thames First Nation. It is also the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, Attawandaronk, and Mississauga Nation. These First Nations continue to provide ongoing stewardship of the land and waters in the municipality of Central Elgin. Council, are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. Adoption of minutes from previous meetings. If I could get a mover and a seconder, please. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Halpin. Councillor Griffin.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Deputy Mayor Noble, seconded by Councillor Griffin, that the minutes for the meetings as listed be adopted.
Questions or comments? Seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Thank you. Moving to correspondence requiring action. Number one is the Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee updated terms of reference. If I could get a mover and a seconder, please. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Watson. Thank you.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Deputy Mayor Noble, seconded by Councillor Watson, that the proposed changes to the Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee be approved as recommended by the Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee, and that correspondence be provided to Elgin County indicating council approval.
Thank you, Ms. Leach. Any questions or comments on this? Seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Thank you. SE 2024 Special Events Elgin Historical Show. Mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Bachman, Deputy Mayor Noble.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Councillor Bogman, seconded by Deputy Mayor Noble, that report SE 2024 regarding 2024 Elgin Historical Show be received as information, and that the special events permit for the 2024 Elgin Historical Show to be held on Friday, August 16th to Sunday, August 19th, 2024, from approximately 7 a.m. to 4 o'clock p.m. be approved subject to the conditions as outlined.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, if I could get, seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Thank you. Report from Central Elgin Planning Office, consent application for 269 Sunset Drive. Are you speaking to this, Mr. McClure?
I can provide a brief overview if you'd like.
Council? please.
The applicant, or so the landowner at 269 Sunset Drive has submitted an application to the Elgin County Land Division Committee. Ultimately, what they're looking at doing is just expanding their property slightly on the east and west side of the existing lot. Staff does not have any concerns with respect to what's being proposed, subject to the conditions being forwarded on to the Elgin County Land Division for their consideration.
Thank you. Questions or comments from council? Oh, I need to move her to seconder first. Exactly. Councillor Bachman, Deputy Mayor Noble, thank you.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Councillor Bogman, seconded by Deputy Mayor Noble, that report CEP 2624 regarding consent application E5924 be received for information, and that consent application E5924 be approved subject to the conditions as outlined. And that such support be provided to the Elgin County Land Division Committee for consideration.
Now, do we have any questions or comments? Seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Thank you. On to the Director of Infrastructure and Community Services, ICS 3424, request for tenders. If I could get a mover and a seconder. Councillor Griffin and Deputy Mayor Noble.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Councillor Griffin, seconded by Deputy Mayor Noble, that the tender from Watford Ford Lincoln Inc. for 2024 13 fleet vehicles, pickup trucks in the amount of $176,648 plus HST be approved, and that the tender from Tormont Cat for the 2024 12 supply of greater tender in the amount of $422,353.71 plus HST be approved, and that both be funded from the 2024 fleet replacement program.
Questions or comments from council? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Sorry, Ms. Leach. ICS 3924, request for tender sidewalk program. If I could get a mover and a seconder for this item, please. Councillor Watson, thank you. Deputy Mayor Noble, thank you.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Councillor Watson, seconded by Deputy Mayor Noble, that the tender from DPA Contracting Limited for the 2024-24 sidewalk program in the amount of $151,171.25 plus HST be approved and funded from the sidewalk, Wellington and McBain capital budget and roads operations contracted services budget.
Thank you, Ms. Leach. Any questions or comments? Councillor Watson, please.
Yes, through you, Mayor. Just like to note that our staff did this budget here and they saved over $70,000 doing this project. So I'd like to thank them for doing that.
Thank you for bringing that up. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Thank you. We're now on to the Director of Financial Services Treasurer, DFS 1324, 2023 year-end budget financial update and allocation of surplus. Could I get a mover to seconder for this one? Councillor Griffin, Councillor Watson. Thank you both.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Councillor Griffin, seconded by Councillor Watson, that an infrastructure reserve be created to dedicate a reserve for future capital projects, that a contingency reserve be created to have funding available for unforeseen operating needs that may arise throughout the year outside of the budget process, that the 2023 year-end operating surplus in the amount of $1,215,740 be transferred into the following reserves as part of the 2023 year-end finalization. $6,507.40 to the infrastructure reserve and $150,000 to the contingency reserve.
Ms. Hurd?
Through your worship, it's just to be clear, the first amount is $1,065,740. Just so we're clear. Yeah, and I know it's hard to read.
Okay. Did you wish to speak to this, Ms. Hurd, or are we going to, is there any questions or comments? All right. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. DFS 1424, 2023 annual report of investments. A mover and a seconder, please. Counselor Watson. Deputy Mayor, thank you.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Counselor Watson, seconded by Deputy Mayor Noble, that the 2023 annual report of investments be received for information.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Thank you. DFS 1524, Canada Community Building Fund Agreement. Mover and a seconder, please. Counselor Bachman, Counselor Griffin.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Counselor Bogman, seconded by Counselor Griffin, that a bylaw be drafted to approve the execution of an agreement between the Association of Municipalities of Ontario and the Municipality of Central Elgin for the transfer of funds under the 2024 to 2034 Canada Community Building Fund Program.
Questions or comments? All in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Thank you. DFS 1624, annual report for building permit fees. Mover and a seconder, please. Counselor Watson, Counselor Griffin.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Counselor Watson, seconded by Counselor Griffin, that the 2023 annual report for building permit fees be received for information and that a target be set for the building department surplus equity reserve fund of 125% for the annual operating budget.
Questions or comments? All in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Thank you. Director of Fire Service Rescue Service, FS 1324, the monthly alarm activities. If I could get a mover and a seconder, Counselor Griffin, Counselor Bachman. Thanks.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Counselor Griffin, seconded by Counselor Bogman, that report FS 1324 regarding monthly alarm activities report, June 2024, be received for information.
Questions or comments? Seeing none. Those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Thank you. Could I get a mover and a seconder for FS 1424, replacement of Rescue 43 and Pumper Tanker 32? Counselor Halpin, Counselor Bachman.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Counselor Griffin, seconded by Counselor Bogman, that report FS 1424 with follow-up regarding the replacement of Rescue 43 and Pumper Tanker 32 be received for information, and that a request for proposal process for the replacement of Belmont Rescue 43 and Yarmouth Pumper Tanker 32 be approved.
We have an amendment.
It's through you, Mayor. I know when these vehicles get to be in that 20-year range, Chief Omrod, we have an insurance requirement that we try to meet. And I'm just wondering if there's any options like refurbishing, because a lot of these machines are, they're kept in pristine shape. So I'm just wondering if we could defer this and maybe look at other options, but I'm happy to ask a question.
Ms. Hurd. Great. To the chief.
Thank you, Mayor Sloan, through you to Deputy Mayor Noble. In my years, I'm not aware of anyone refurbishing a truck that is at the 20-year limit and putting it back into service. The fire underwriter states at the 20-year. There is a technical bulletin within their guidelines that does talk about used vehicles and modification of used vehicles, but further into it, it does state that at 20 years that it should be traded out.
Thanks, Chief. sorry, Councillor Graham.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the chief. Chief, I'm just
Right.
wondering if you've, sorry, just wondering if, maybe we should defer this so that we can take a look at partnering. I know Malahide partnered with other municipalities. They saved $250,000. As well, going through AMO for the tendering process, they saved a lot of money there as well. So I would like to see us investigate those options fully before we make any decisions moving forward.
Thank you, Councillor Bachman.
I would be opposed to deferring any more. I've actually witnessed and had a tour of the Belmont rescue truck. It is approaching 25 years and it needs to be replaced. It is a rescue vehicle that I do not wish to see the residents of the Belmont area put in any jeopardy because we're keep deferring. This will be the second deferment we've had, and I would like to see this proceed and us to get the appropriate equipment in the hands of our firemen so that they can do their job.
I believe it's 2 years out. Is that right, Chief, that we're looking at? So that would be 27 years. Councillor Griffin, did you have a comment?
Thank you. Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, I would also be opposed to deferring because not only of the fact that we have kicked this can once down the road, but also looking at this report, it looks as though not doing this stands not only to increase the insurance costs for all of our community members because their insurers don't view this as safe anymore in the respective areas of these fire stations that have outdated vehicles, but also could impact the commercial insurance across our entire municipality. So what we're talking about doing is by kicking this one more time, making the community a less safe place and making it more costly for our businesses to operate and our homes to maintain their finances.
So I checked with an insurance broker this morning and that's patently false, that it will be more expensive for residential insurance. That's just what I was told by an insurance broker. So I don't know if you have confirmation on how it will be more expensive.
Mr. Mayor, I defer to the report by our fire chief.
Thank you. So we have 2 for against deferral. We have a couple for deferral. Councillor Watson?
Through you, Mayor. There's talk that we need to replace these trucks every 20 years, but now we got one in Belmont that's 25 years old. How did that happen? So I have no problem deferring it and trying to get the cheapest option that we can for our residents.
Okay. Well, why don't we come up with a compromise and we defer it to a next meeting or the meeting after the next? How would that feel from Councillor Bachman? Is that a bit of a compromise for you?
Mr. Mayor, could we perhaps allow the chief, it looked as though he wanted to speak to the issue of how that 25-year truck happened.
Sorry, it was Councillor Watson that had the floor, so I'm not sure.
Through you, Mayor, I'll ask that question.
Chief Ormrod?
I apologize. I did not hear the question.
We're supposed to replace these vehicles at the 20-year mark all the time, but Councillor Bachman said that we had one in Belmont that's 25 years old. So how can we keep using that without getting into trouble, liability-wise, insurance-wise?
Councillor Watson. Chief Ormrod, please.
Mayor Sloan, through you to Councillor Watson. Prior to my tenure here, the administration had extended the life of the rescue units to 25 years as opposed to 20. And I would suggest that the rationale for that is that the rescue trucks do not have a pump, so they do not fall under the fire underwriters survey with regards to fire protection because they are not a vehicle that will pump water. So although they recommend the vehicles not go beyond 20 years, there is no mandate for a vehicle without a pump to be replaced at the 20-year mark.
Understood. Thanks. Deputy Mayor, please.
Through you, Mayor. So just to clarify, it wasn't this council that deferred this, correct?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, please, Chief.
Through you, Mayor Sloan, to Deputy Mayor Todd. That deferred to the 25-year? No, it was not this council.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor. Okay, so why don't we go, we have some interest in a deferral. Councillor Watson has spoken about it. Are we going to do it with a time? Do you want a time for that? Councillor Watson, you tell us, and if you have a seconder, we'll go forward. Oh, I apologize. Councillor Graham?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the chief. Chief, would 1 or 2 meetings, 1 or 2 months out be enough time for you to investigate those options of the AMO tendering process, as well as contacting other municipalities to see about cost-saving measures with multiple.
Sir? Thanks, Councillor.
Mayor Sloan, through you to Councillor Graham. Yes, it would. That would be enough time. I do know that 3 of the municipalities in Elgin County did go together to purchase a tanker when we had originally looked at it as well. As I recall, I believe there is one municipality is looking for a rescue currently, or will be very shortly. We may be able to jump on that. When you do speak of the AMO component, I believe the 3 municipalities that just purchased their tanker went through what's called canoe. It was canoe for, okay, all right.
Perfect. Thanks, Chief, and I appreciate your interest in this matter. Do you have a seconder? Deputy Mayor?
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Councillor Graham, seconded by Deputy Mayor Noble, that staff report FS 1424 be deferred and staff be directed to investigate if refurbishment is an option for either of the vehicles and report back.
Pardon me.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Councillor Graham, seconded by Deputy Mayor Noble, that staff report FS 1424 be deferred and staff be directed to investigate whether refurbishment and or group purchasing is an option for either of the vehicles and report back.
All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Thank you.
Could we record that vote, please?
Ms. Leach?
Councillor Graham,
Yes.
Councillor Griffin,
No.
Councillor Watson,
Yes.
Councillor Connors,
Yes.
Councillor Bogman,
No.
Deputy Mayor Noble,
Yes.
Mayor Sloan.
Yes.
That's carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Moving on to the bylaws. Thank you. Bylaw 2873 municipal drain, chick drain. If I could get a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Watson, Deputy Mayor Noble. Thank you.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Councillor Watson, seconded by Deputy Mayor Noble, that bylaw 2873 be read a third time and finally passed.
All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Bylaw 2916. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Councillor Watson, Deputy Mayor Noble, thank you.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Councillor Watson, seconded by Deputy Mayor Noble, bylaws 2916 and 2917 be taken collectively.
All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Mover and a seconder for third and final, Councillor Griffin, Councillor Bachman, thank you.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Councillor Griffin, seconded by Councillor Bogman, that bylaws 2916 and 2917 be read a first, second, third time and finally passed.
All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Thank you. Notices in motion, Councillor Griffin, do you have something you'd like to put forward?
Yes, please, if I have a seconder.
Councillor Bachman. Do you wish to? Okay, I'm sorry.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Councillor Griffin, seconded by Councillor Bogman, Whereas the municipality of Central Elgin is committed to exercising fair, transparent, and reasonable financial practices that support members of council fulfilling their statutory duties as elected officials. Whereas bylaw 2722 establishes a council remuneration and expense policy for members of council for remuneration and participation at conferences, workshops, and training opportunities in accordance with the annual budget process. Whereas there is limited clarity concerning the administration of the existing policy for both staff and council, now therefore be it resolved that staff be directed to conduct a review of the council expense policy, including but not limited to training and conference attendance and other costs related to fulfilling statutory duties, and report back with recommended updates.
Thank you, Delaney. So to speak briefly to this, this is not a report where or a motion where I'm requesting that we take a specific and immediate action. This is an observation over the course of the last few years that as I've gone to different events, I've found that there are different municipalities doing their things like their training budgets in different ways from us. And then over the last few months in various conversations with Ms. Hurd about other things arising in Ward 2, I've found that sometimes we don't have provisions for other matters where councillors might do discretionary spending, for example, or other things like that. Or there are places where we don't have as much clarity as would be perhaps ideal on certain points. And so the conversation that we had as I was drafting this was around asking staff to see whether there are things that could be updated and clarified and generally improved in the way that we have this written so that we can move forward a little better.
Thank you. For me, I don't understand why we're telling the staff and specifically Ms. Hurd about a policy. I could see council, which of course I can see that request, though I don't understand it, but we're asking about an existing policy for staff and council. So what's our role here? I'm told we're we're guidance, Ms. Hurd. Are we to get into the weeds on what's happening with respect to staff? And I'm not quite sure how when it comes to the statutory duties of the staff, would they not differ than the statutory duties of council?
So through yourself, sir, yes, it is. However, the actual motion reads that the clarity, I guess the clarity, there is clarity that could be improved on for staff as administrating the policy. So what we have is a number of questions that came to me when I was interpreting the policy. There could be, and in my experience, there have been a little bit more clarification. Rules have changed over the years with legislative changes, as well as it relates to alcohol policies, as well as election policies. So updating the policy and doing a full review of the expense policy rather than just picking out conferences and or training would be preferred. So that was the intent of that comment.
Perfect. Thanks for clarifying. Can I ask a question, Councillor Griffin? What are you trying to achieve?
Ideally, I would make it so that we can all understand very clearly and without needing to bother staff all the time for it, what certain points of spending are possible. And when we send in things like receipts, it would never create a headache. I would also like to make sure that what we're doing is whatever is sort of considered most current and best practice.
Thank you. You're currently given a budget, I believe, of what you need to do. Is it $2,500 for conferences, et cetera? Again, I don't understand what's trying to be achieved. You're saying about whether the staff would know to pay receipts. Do you have a specific receipt that wasn't paid? Is there a concern?
No, this has nothing to do with any receipt that I've sent in. And actually, in fact, I haven't yet sent in anything from Roma. I was hoping to do that at the same time as my AMO receipts. This is more an observation that there are other municipalities wholly handling things differently, and I'd like to make sure that this is up to date. And even that beyond education, there are other spending things, as Ms. Hurd mentioned, that also aren't as clear within this particular bylaw as what they are for other municipalities. And so if we can see places where it's not as clear as it could be, or where other places are finding better ways to do it, then it would be good for us to try and catch that up.
Thanks. And do you, just as an aside, do you have an example of other municipalities doing something differently, which you would consider a best practice?
Well, I'm not sure. And again, this is something where I would love to get feedback from our staff and see what they would recommend as most useful. But I did find that there were pretty broad differences in terms of how many different things certain municipalities would send councillors to. And even some municipalities, I spoke to council members who said that rather than doing a dollar value, they do a number of places to attend, for example, so that it's more broadly covered than that. Some places very specifically lay out things like alcohol so that you don't go and buy drinks if your municipality would not like to be paying. for
We
things
don't,
like that.
we don't pay for alcohol, Counselor.
I don't think have anything written about it actually, which is very interesting. I agree that we shouldn't. But-
I just want to ask
Okay.
staff here, I believe that we don't, because if you could just confirm that.
Through yourself, no, we don't. However, it isn't very clear in the policy.
Thank you, Ms. Hurd.
Right. So if those things are not clear in policy, I think those are great things for us to make sure are well outlined so that we don't have any problems with people sending receipts and any conflict over those things.
Okay, so I'm just going to ask one more time. So it's not so that we can bill. You're not looking to bill alcohol, which we currently can't do. It's got to do with receipts of conferences or other, I just need an example here, because before we ask staff, and you're always, making a point of how the work they're doing and how busy they are, which I totally agree with. I just don't understand what the objective is from your motion with respect to asking the staff to look into something particular on how it would help the council.
It feels as though you're very averse to this, and that may be my impression of it. What I would like to see is what's not being done here that maybe should be, and what is being done here that is maybe out of date. Another of the conversations, for example, that came up in my ward, and I did say not all of this is training related, was a local group that was looking for support for a children's activity. And I spoke with Ms. Hurd about it, and she said, there's lots of municipalities where it would be common for the budget to include a small discretionary amount per counselor, where rather than waiting an entire month, coming to the council and saying like, can we do $25 for these children or something? You can do that on behalf of your council in a supportive way. And they might qualify what types of things you could support or how that would look, right? There's so many different things that other municipalities are doing and we are not doing. So when I see that there are things that are out of date or different in our education, things that are not clear, and I see that there are these things that I'm hearing about that other municipalities are doing that we're not, I think it would be worth asking for a little bit of insight and expertise and seeing if there's recommendation on what we can do to better serve.
Okay, Councillor Graham, did you have a comment?
I did, through you, Mr. Mayor. One, I'm just wondering if staff are having a problem executing that, our current situation.
Through the mayor to Councillor Graham, again, being relatively new to the organization, I wouldn't say we're having a problem, but when I reviewed the policy and I had a number of questions about it, I would like to see a little bit more clarification at this time.
Thank you.
Number two, I'm also wondering about the timing of this with Ms. Hurd being relatively new, I'm sure, and us being in transition for the last two CAOs that we're sitting in. I think there's probably a fair amount of work that needs to be done to get things in order. So I'm wondering about the timing of this because it doesn't seem like it would be something that would be a priority right now while Ms. Hurd's getting her feet under her.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Councillor Watson, please.
Yeah, through you, Mayor. This expense policy review, I was just wondering who would be doing it. It sounds like a great job for an HR person, but I don't think we have one yet, right? So let's not spend a whole lot of money there right now. And because let's keep our resources focused on what we want to do. I don't know if this is important right now. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions? Deputy Mayor, then Councillor Griffin. Thank you.
Through you, Mayor, I'm just curious how old this policy is and when it was put in place.
Through the mayor to Deputy Mayor Noble, I believe it was 2019.
5 years. Councillor Griffin, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do appreciate that obviously Ms. Hurd is going to need to decide what things she'd like to take care of first. And this is not something where I've put a specific hard line on it that I'm hoping for, say, a September report. This is more something where I'd like to see us trying to endorse change and improvement and further clarity. And it's certainly something where if Ms. Hurd decides that she needs to take longer to come back to it, or that she feels that certain parts are better delegated to their own departments or whatever that may be, that's certainly welcome. But I don't think that that makes it less relevant to ask for.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor.
Through you, Mayor, with this policy only being 5 years old, do we want to table this and revisit it maybe in 6 months? Just a thought.
I was also surprised at how new it was and to find that there were parts that were not considered clear. But when there were parts that I didn't find clear, and then Ms. Hurd said that she also had parts that she found unclear, I thought, you know, if it's not just me, if there are other people that also read it and feel that there are elements that are not there, then it's not a bad thing to take a further look at that.
Thank you. I think I've heard from everyone, so I'm going to call the vote, please. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion fails. Thank you. Other business, doesn't look like we have any. Could I get a mover and a seconder to go into close, please? Deputy Mayor, Councillor Bachman, thank you both.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Deputy Mayor Noble, seconded by Councillor Bogman, the council proceed into closed session at 5:37 PM in order to address a matter pertaining to a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on by or on behalf of the municipality, and a proposed disposition of land by the municipality.
All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Thank you. We're in closed.